Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Ninja Chickens podcast. My name's Maria, and I'm your host on this fibery adventure. We've got lots to talk about today. We're going to be covering knitting, some eco-printing, natural dyeing, a giveaway, a pattern release, some things that I purchased, and I do have a tea recipe for you at the end, so stay tuned for that. You can find me on Instagram as ninja.chickens. You can find me on Ravelry as Ninja Chickens, and on ninjachickens.org, which is where you'll find all the show notes and a link to the podcast if you want to send that to anyone. And I'm no longer on Facebook. I decided that's it. I'm getting off too much social media, and I just like the way Instagram works better than Facebook. So I've taken myself off of there, so you won't find me there anymore. So yes, it's been almost a month since my last podcast, and things have been really busy, good busy, change is busy, but I just couldn't find a moment to sit down. And now I'm sitting down here on early Saturday morning. You can probably hear the crickets and the cicadas and the birds, and now an airplane in the background. It's the quiet before the storm. It's almost past. There it goes. Just a minute. They rarely pass over our house, except when I podcast. Anyway, right now it's the quiet before the storm. Things seem extremely peaceful, but as many of you know, Hurricane Florence is headed this way. She's already hit the coast and caused a lot of flooding. It's a very mild hurricane as far as wind speed goes, but it's carrying a whole lot of rain. So we're expecting some flooding in this area. My house is on the side of a mountain. Everything just flows past. I'm not worried about myself or our things or anything, but send your thoughts to those people closer to the east, to the coast. There's a lot of repairs and a lot of damage that's happened. And a lot of repairs that will have to happen. So if you can keep them in your thoughts, that would be really, really nice, because it hit pretty hard. So the rain will be starting here soon, probably in the next few hours, and we're expecting anywhere from 5 to 10 inches of rain around this area. And since we've had pretty much a full spring and summer full of rain, there's no way around it. We're going to have some flooding. So luckily, sorry, the cat just jumped on the roof. Luckily, it's been a slow-moving storm, so that there's been time to prepare. So, so it's Saturday morning, the 15th, and September 15th. We're a week away from the first day of fall, which I'm really excited about. It has not felt anywhere close to fall. Usually by September, it's starting to cool off a little bit. And I'm wearing a sweater, but it's been summer weather for the last few weeks. Let's see. Well, other than I got back from Wool Scouts, and the next day Kaya started school, and she loves it, which is such a relief. She had a hard time last year with the school that she was in. It was her first time trying a structured school outside of homeschooling, and we did a little homeschooling last year. It was kind of a part-time school, but it just was not a fit for her. It didn't have the right rhythm and structure for her, and she had a hard time just feeling comfortable with it. So she started something new this year, which is actually run out of an old Masonic temple in downtown Asheville, and she loves it. She loves the people, she loves the flow, she loves the classes they're studying. She even likes getting up in the morning and working out, which is not my child. So I'm so excited for her. It's really nice to see her happy. Leaf started homeschooling right after I got back from Wool Scouts, and that's been a struggle too. He is at that stage that it seems like a lot of homeschoolers go through, where they start getting a lot more just in need of more things, more time, more attention, more people. And Leaf's a pretty extroverted kid and could do with being around other kids 24/7. He doesn't need much downtime. So we've been talking about the idea of him going to a school, and are actually doing some tours and checking a few out to see if that's something that he might want to do. He doesn't like the idea of being gone 5 days a week, just for those hours of school time, because he's pretty close to me, and he's a mama's boy. But I think he would pretty quickly find a lot of fun and really thrive in that atmosphere with lots of other kids to encourage the learning and all of that. So we'll see. Should that happen, I will find myself with a little bit more time. Not a lot, because I do a lot of work while I'm homeschooling, but that's actually been causing some stress, trying to fit everything into the limited amount of time you have in a day. And our neighbors, who live just in the cabin next door, are moving out at the end of the month. So if Leaf does decide that he's ready for school, I'm going to make that into my office, and I'm going to have an eco-printing and natural dyeing and knitting studio. I already have designs I know I want to work on. I have classes I want to work on, and to have a separate space where I can spread everything out and leave it out would be absolutely amazing. So even if he doesn't go to school, we're going to convert that space into my office, and maybe the small upstairs room will be like a quiet homeschool room or something where he can do some of his work while I'm getting some work done. We'll see. So yeah, it's been kind of busy, but I'm glad to be sitting down here with you today. I've got so much to talk to you guys about, and I will try not to make it prolonged, but there's a lot of fun things going on. The first thing I want to talk about is that this is my 40th episode. Yay! I can't believe I've done 40 of these episodes. In some ways it feels like I've been doing them forever, and in some ways it feels like I just started, and I guess it'll be 2 years in December. So I want to do a giveaway, but there's a caveat. You guys have to work for it. So here's what we're going to do. Usually I just say, answer this question, and then you just have to type in an answer. This time you're going to have to do a little knitting. For my 40th giveaway, I really want to help my friend Evelyn, who is the podcaster behind the Thistle Hollow. I want to help her finish that blanket. I talked with you about it earlier this year. Well, I'm going to read something for you. This is in her words of what she's doing this blanket for. It's a very special blanket for a very special woman, and I really want to help her complete it. So these are Evelyn's words. After following the Nassar trial in the news, some of you guys know Larry Nassar and have followed that trial, I wanted to find a way for our knitting community to show support and send love to the sister survivors, and to add our voice to the Me Too movement. For those of you who may not be familiar with the story, in January of 2018, the former Michigan State University and USA gymnastics doctor, Larry Nassar, was sentenced to life in prison after being found guilty of one of the largest sex abuse scandals in history. Over his 20-year professional career, he abused countless young girls and women who came to him for treatment. Rachel Den Hollander, one of the survivors, was the first to speak out against Nassar, and in the words of the Judge Aquilina, she built an army of survivors. She became the leader of a movement with 155 other survivors stepping up, joining her in court to give victim impact statements against Nassar. I had the idea to put together a blanket to give to Rachel to honor her courage and to stand in support of her and the other survivors. The blanket will be made out of 156 squares to represent each of the women who bravely raised their voices against such evil and who continue to be mistreated and maligned by the MSU, or Michigan State University Board, to this day. I'd like to invite you to stitch your love, story, and support into the square to add to the blanket. I believe she's a little over 100 squares right now, and she needs 156. So here's my challenge to you. I challenge you to knit one square. Each square is to be knit out of fingering weight superwash yarn. And it's a 5 by 5 inch square. That can be done, depending on how fast you are, 30 minutes to an hour or two. They're pretty fast to knit. And then send them to me. I'm going to put together a big package of all the knitted squares I already have. See if I can grab those. I already have a nice selection that was sent to me by my local knitting guild, the Smoky Mountain Knitting Guild, and I've sent her a few others previously. I want to finish it off for her. I want to get as many squares as possible so that she can put these squares together and make this blanket. It's something special to her. It's something special to me. I think it's a really beautiful way to show support for this movement and for this particular woman who was the first person to step forward. I know this is a hard subject for a lot of you guys to talk about, whether because of history or just the taboo around speaking about sexual abuse. But you don't have to write anything. You don't have to send a note or anything. If you're interested, just knit one square. Now, if you send me 2 squares, you get 2 entries. If you send me 5 squares, you get 5 entries. However many squares you want to knit, that's how many entries you will get. So I'm going to put all of the details in my Ravelry group with what the squares need to be. And there are going to be 3 prizes. There's going to be a spinner's box, a knitter's box, and a children's box. So when you send your entry or entries, tell me which box or box you want to be entered into winning. And here are the prizes. In the knitter's box, we have an awesome pin, Knitrovert by Maker's Merch, to show off your knitting pride. A beautiful soap sample from Dillfield. This one is Rowan Berries and Yarrow. And 2 skeins of gorgeous undyed Romney from Prado de Lana. This one is a bulky and it's 100% Romney. So 2 of these. That is the knitter's box. Now, the spinner's box has in it, there's going to be some crinkling. Sorry, I don't want to open all of these. 100% merino, raw merino. You can see some locks in there, and there's some prepared top. 3 other different beautiful fiber samples from different companies. This one is Space Sunrise. This one's the Green Comet. And this one, I don't have the name of it. Let me see. It's in there. No, I don't want to open it and crinkle it, but there's alpaca, there's angora, there's all kinds of different fibers. Oh, look at that. You can see the swirl inside there. All beautiful fiber samples, and then I'm throwing in some of my locks. I can't remember if these are Wensleydale or Teeswater. I'll have to look it up for you. Look at that. Long locks dyed with red. For those of you who like to do lock spinning, or you can flick them out too and just spin the wool, but they're a lot of fun to spin just the tips and have the locks outside. And Strong Nails and Cuticle Balm by Dillfield, because we all need good hands if we're going to be spinning or knitting. And there we go. And then the last one is the children's bag, and this is for anyone who has children that are interested in crafts, or grandchildren, or friends with children. So we have The Crafty Cat. It is a graphic novel, children's graphic novel about a crafty cat. Annie and the Swiss Cheese Scarf. This is by Alana Dacco, so a lot of you will know her as a knitwear designer. What is the name of her business? Botanical. Oh, it doesn't say it in here. Never Not Knitting is what she's where you might know her from. But this is a story she wrote for her daughter about knitting a scarf, and it even has a little information on how to knit in the back. And then I'm also throwing in 2 of my favorite books from when I was a kid and from my children's childhood. This one's called Miss Susie. It's an old library book. And I remember this so dearly when I was a kid. I absolutely loved this story, and I don't know why, because when I got it for my kids and read it back over, I was like, well, that's kind of violent. It's even got the old library card pocket in there. But it's about this squirrel whose house is taken over by mean red squirrels, and she finds a band of toy soldiers to help her get her house back. So there's that one. And then there's one other one that I used to love reading to my kids called Slugs in Love. And it's about 2 slugs who write poems to each other in their slug juice on barns and tomatoes and stuff like that throughout the garden until they finally get to actually meet each other in person. So there's 4 books. Then there's also going to be a little bag of Apple Cider Donut Tea and a little muslin baggie to go with it, and some yarn for the child to start learning how to knit. And this one is tie-dye wool is what's called. It's 100% wool. So those are the 3 boxes, baggies of goodies for your entries. So you'll knit 1 square for each entry and tell me which bag or which entry you want to be entered into for that square. This is going to go through, let's say, through the end of October. That gives a little over a month and a half. So by October 31st, yeah, I think that works. By October 31st, if you can send those to me. If you're international, just keep that in mind. It might take a couple weeks to get to me. But yeah, I'll have all the details in the Ravelry group, what I need for each entry, all the prizes, and my address, so you can send those to me. And let's send this out with a bang. Let's send a whole lot of squares to her so she can get this blanket done. And that's going to be my 40th giveaway / knit along, I guess, since you guys have to do more than answer a question. And thank you very much if you knit something. I really appreciate the effort. Okay, moving along. Let's talk about finished objects. My first finished object is this one. It is the lightweight Raglan Pullover by Purl Soho, and it was a stash buster. I knit this. So let's see, I started with the brown, and then there's 2 colors in the chest, and then another color up here. And I'm going to put on the screen the 4 yarns I used because I didn't write it down in my notes. It's on my Ravelry page if you want to see. I absolutely loved this brown. This one was given to me by Kate of Hawthorne Cottage Crafts at Edinburgh Yarn Festival. And I don't really think of myself as a brown fan. It's kind of just a color. It's not one that I find myself drawn to, but this has so many gorgeous oranges and reds and black and tan and all kinds of other really beautiful colors in it. So I fell in love with it. I kind of wish the whole sweater were knit in this yarn. This one is a single ply, and the others were, well, I think 2 ply and 4 ply. So there's 3 different plies in these yarns, but it still goes together just fine. I'm not noticing any more pilling from the single ply than the rest of them. I'm not noticing a lot of pilling at all, actually. So that's good. Good to know. They're all superwash, so they all have the same kind of drape, but ply-wise, I was worried that that was going to change the drape too, but it really hasn't. So I just wanted to get rid of some of the stash. I have a lot of sock yarn in my stash. You know, I didn't really have a stash until a couple years ago. I just bought what I needed when I was going to be knitting a project, and then I'd have the leftover from whatever was left of that yarn. And then I guess I found Instagram and I found podcasts, and people would recommend this gorgeous stuff, and I'm like, ooh, I should get one of those. So I have some that I'm trying to whittle down. So this took 4 skeins of yarn, and I love it. It's I like the way it went together, and I've got all the details of how I made it into a faded sweater, basically, in my Ravelry page if you want to look. And it's the lightweight Raglan pullover. And I knit this for the Not Everybody Goes to Rhinebeck knit along. If you're a subscriber to the podcast, you probably heard me talk about it before. A group of vendors have gotten together since not everybody can go to the Rhinebeck Festival, and we're having a knit along, and we're having sales that weekend, and I'm going to give you a tea recipe, things so that you guys can feel a part of the fun of fall and Rhinebeck and knitting festivals, even if you can't go. If you want more details about it, I have some information on the Ravelry page, and there's also a list of all the vendors on Ann Tudor's website, and I'll put that right down here. So yeah, part of the thing we're doing is a knit along, a sweater knit along, because everybody makes a Rhinebeck sweater, so we're making our Can't Go to Rhinebeck sweaters. So this is my Can't Go to Rhinebeck sweater, and I finished it. Another thing we're going to be doing, or I'm going to be doing that weekend with Echo View Fiber Mill, is actually having a little festival get together on that Saturday. I believe it's the 20th, October 20th. It's either the 20th or 21st. I think it's the 20th, that's Saturday. And we're going to get together at the fiber mill. We're still working on all the details, but basically it'll be a few hours where we'll have bobbing for apples and knitting and donuts and just a gathering to celebrate fall and knit together, crochet together, whatever your craft. So keep your eyes open for that. It'll be in just north of Asheville, at the Echo View Fiber Mill. So that's my first finished object. My second finished object is this awesome top. It is a knitted top out of cotton, and it's called the Sol de Verano, or Summer Sun, by Raquel Francia, and I knit it in Sestari's Old Dominion, 100% cotton. There is a mill just north of me in Virginia that grows their own cotton, so it's local cotton, and they produce this, and I really enjoyed it. I'd only actually knit cotton things years ago when I made dishcloths. I just don't knit with cotton much, so it was fun to make this, and it's a good summer top. This was Raquel's first pattern, which I think is awesome. I saw it on her Instagram, and I just knew that would be something fun and quick to knit. I took it with me to Wool Scouts so that I could have a simple knit. You knit the front, you knit the back, and then you stitch them together. The differences between mine and hers, the purl side is the main side. I actually flipped mine around and made the knit side the main side. The back, when I have it on, it drapes a little. You can kind of see how it will drape out, which is totally fine, but I was worried that it would be too much for the front. So in the front, I did a few central decreases right around the top to bring it in a little bit, and that really helped. I also knit mine a good bit longer than hers. I have a long torso, and I also don't like crop tops. For me, they just don't suit my build. So I made it longer, and it was a lot of fun to knit. It was a great little pattern, fairly simple. That's the Sol de Verano, and that's my second finished object. As far as knitting goes, I do have some spinning finished objects, but I'll get to those in a little bit. As far as works in progress, I have 3 things on the needles right now, but one I've not been doing a whole lot with. I'm still working on some socks that I've shown you in the past. That's just a pair of some yarn that Leaf had gotten for me that's super bright, and I told him I'd knit him socks until there was no more yarn left, so he's probably going to get some thigh highs. But I'm slowly working on those. It's really it's just a slip stitch pattern. It's just not what I pick up most often, so I've not done a whole lot on those. The other thing I'm doing right now, and actually it's a finished object because I just finished them yesterday, is a test knit for Ellie of Skein-Deer Knits. She has the Skein-Deer podcast, and she's also a designer. And one of the most popular things she's done is a colorwork mitten. Basically, it's like a club. You get a pattern in the beginning of September, then another one in October, then another one in November, and then December. So 4 mitten patterns, and they're a mystery until you get them at the beginning of the month. That way, well, if you knit them all, you have 4 pairs of mittens before the holidays if you want to give any away. But she usually starts with a simpler pattern and a larger yarn, and you can build up to more intricate and a smaller weight yarn or lighter weight yarn as you learn through her patterns. And I did a test knit for her last year and really enjoyed them. So I offered to do it again this year because I like her patterns. They're simple to read, easy to follow, simple charts. And I really enjoy knitting them, and they're always beautiful. So these are the 2 yarns that I'm using right now, or that I have used. It's a very pale blue and a darker kind of gray blue. This one is the Ralma Finulgarn, and this one is the Uredale jumper weight yarn. I got this one at EYF, and then this one was given to me, so I put them together, and I love the way they look. So I test knit her October mittens, so it'll be a little while before you see them, another month and a half or so, but they were beautiful. If you have any question about joining the group and getting her patterns, I would recommend it. I think these are my favorite ones so far. They were absolutely gorgeous. So I'm excited about that test knit, and I'll show you those soon. Oh, and I also, for the first mitten, I used this one as the main color and this as the design color, and I switched it for the other one, and it looks really cute. So I'm excited to show you those. So my other work in progress is actually something that I'm doing thanks to Kelly of Celtic Cast On and the Celtic Cast On podcast. I don't remember. I think it was a couple of podcasts ago. She mentioned something about her kids pulling yarn and putting them in bags for her. I think it was just sock yarn, so she can knit a pair of socks every month or bust the stash. And I thought that was a fabulous idea. So I pulled aside all the yarn, all my fingering weight yarn. I put it all in the bed, and I sent my kids up into my room, and I said, here are 12 bags, put some yarn in there. And I even told them if they found two skeins of yarn that they thought went really well together, to stick those in the same bag. And that at least once a month, I would open a new bag and start a project and try and finish it within the month and get that skein knit up to decrease the stash. So they did that, and I've started on the first one. This is my September, here it is, my September project. They pulled a skein of Rohrspatz and Wollmeise Sultan. It's this one right here. And it's 165 grams. It was a big skein, but that worked out perfectly because there's a big shawl that I thought it would go well with. It was a very saturated yarn. It is a very saturated yarn that looked to me like it would probably do a lot of pooling if I tried to knit socks or a single garment with it. Here's the colors. So they're beautiful colors, but very saturated and very different from one another. And I wasn't sure how it would knit up. So I found a pattern called the Gardens of Giverny. I think that's how you pronounce it, by Alina Aposova. And it is done with a second color so that it works well, a second solid color, so it works well with yarns that might pool. And I am using, actually, this was a test yarn that Mars of Hey Brown Berry and Dynamics Yarn sent me when we were working on our sock collaboration. And we ended up using a different yarn for the sock, so I had a nice skein of this. So these two together. And this is what I've got so far. Basically, you repeat this the whole way down until you have a nice big shawl. So you'll see the lace panel is where the color is, where the pooling yarn would be. And it's going to be hard to see this, I think, until it's blocked. But basically, it's going to look like that for the whole shawl, and I really think it's going to be gorgeous. If you look on Ravelry, you'll see some really pretty pictures. This is her picture of it. So I'm excited. I think that's going to be nice. It's been a while since I've done a shawl. I did like 20 of them in 1 year and just burnt myself out and haven't done them in a while, and I don't wear them much. I wear sweaters more, blankets more, or the hat that I made, but my favorite shawl is my fleece flight. The one that I designed, I think because it's thick and hefty and it really wraps around you. And when I want a shawl, that's usually what I want, is something to really keep the cold out. If I want something around my neck, I often wear a cowl. So this looks like I can make it really big, which then would be nice for wrapping around a bunch. I like big shawls if I'm gonna wear them. All right, so yeah, the stash busting thing with my kids, I would highly recommend that. I keep looking at the pile of bags with all the stuff in it, and I really want to dig in and see what's next. And it's gotten me so much more excited about knitting my stash than I was when I was just looking at everything there on the shelf. So if you're trying to pare stuff down, you don't even have to do 12 bags. You could do 2 or 4 or whatever, and have someone else put the stuff in there, and then you don't know what it is. It just, I don't know, it makes it more of a surprise. So I would highly recommend that. The next thing is spinning. I think after getting the kids settled in school stuff, finishing the pattern release, finishing the 2 knits that I did, I kind of needed to cleanse my palette and thought I would do a little spinning. It's been a while since I've spun. It's just not something I am called to as much as knitting. I enjoy it, but usually once I'm done the yarn, I just put the yarn away and I don't usually knit with it. And I don't know why. I think I like often more solid things, solid sweaters with a little collar work, or I don't know. So when I have one skein of yarn that's got lots of color in it, I just don't find myself knitting with them. But I like the spinning. So I sat down and I put on my wheel. The first thing was a small sample of fiber that I got from Patricia, who's P. Fortune, or Knitography, in Norway. And she actually was born and grew up very close to where I live now, in the Cherokee area. She has 3 sheep now on her farm. I'm going to try and pronounce them. Grøtrundresau, I believe, is how they're pronounced. I don't know if I did it right, but they're really beautiful, sweet sheep, and she actually just did a podcast video of the sheep bouncing around and talking about getting them on her farm. She's just recently gotten them on her farm these past few months. She had to do a lot of preparation, go through lots of certifications, I guess, to make sure that everything was set up properly. So now she has 3 adorable sheep, and they just have the sweetest little faces and little white marks on their noses. And anyway, when I saw her at Edinburgh Yarn Festival this past March, she gave me a sample of their darker wool and their lighter wool, and I spun it up and then plied it together to make a marl. And it's really lovely. It's super soft. Often when I think of standard farm yarn, there's a little tooth to it. And this has a little bit, but really, I asked her at one point if this was the undercoat, because some sheep have dual coats where there's a soft undercoat that's more fine and a little shorter, excuse me, and a longer, straighter, harder outer fleece. And I asked if it was the undercoat. I've never seen this type of sheep before in person, so I didn't know, because it was a very fine, crimpy, somewhat short-stapled fiber. And she said, no, that's just their fleece. So it's really cool. I'd actually like to see them in person and feel the fleece on them. But it was a nice spin. It was a little bit harder for me because I'm not a great spinner. I don't do it that often. I have a really good wheel, which helps, but I'm not prolific. I don't do it enough to get great at short stapled yarns. So this one was a little harder for me because it would slip from my hands. But once I got into the rhythm, it went pretty well. And I think it turned out a really pretty little yarn. So I don't know what I'll do with it. Maybe it will be a sweet contrast in a hat or something. Thank you, Patricia. It was a lot of fun to spin that. The other thing I just finished yesterday, it may still be a tiny bit damp, is a loop bump by Loop Fiber Arts. I got this, I think it was at SAF last year. I was at a festival. There was a whole wall full of bumps. If you don't know what those are, you should go to Loop Fiber Arts Instagram feed, and you'll see they're just big round bumps of fiber. Basically what she does is she makes a long, thin roving and then wraps it and wraps it and wraps it, kind of like you would kind of like this, except it's fiber. And you pull from the center and spin from that. I mean, you can alter it. You could take it apart if you want, but I didn't. I pulled it from the center and just went until there wasn't any more. It was 5.2 ounces, so I've got 520 yards of this yarn. So I guess that's close to a fingering weight, maybe a sport weight. And it started with a dark pink, and then it went to pink, and then black, then yellow, then black, then orange, then black. Like, it just kept changing colors with black in between. I don't have it where you can see everything, but here it is up close. And there is a little bit of Angelina in there, so you've got some sparkle. It is, let's see, there was merino and silk and bamboo and a tiny bit of Angelina. It's just got the slightest bit of sparkle, not Not so much that it's overwhelming, but enough that you get a little hint. It's really pretty. I did the whole thing on one bobbin and then went back and plied, or Navajo plied, where you make a chain of 3 and ply that together, then pull a loop through and make another chain of 3. I actually really love plying like that. One, you don't worry about having too much yarn on one bobbin than another, and then having a lot of extra left over, because you do the whole strand, the whole skein of yarn from one bobbin, if I can get my words out. But I also like the way it looks, and I like that it gives it a little more structure with 3 plies instead of 2, because, for me, that helps with the strength of my yarn, since I'm not the best spinner. But I thought it came out great. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Again, this is very similar to the yarn that I'm knitting leaf socks with. It's so saturated and bold. I don't know what I would make with it. So if you have any suggestions, let me know. I think because this has the black in between each color, it would probably be a really cool looking shawl. But I don't know. So there it is. It is a lot of yarn. I don't have that much fiber in my stash, but maybe I should have the kids put that fiber in bags too, and then just pull from it and try and spin at least one thing a month. But usually I have to be inspired to do the spinning. And this one just looked like a lot of fun. So there it is. A big hunk of yarn. So, what else can I tell you about? So I did a eco-dyeing class at Ecoview Fiber Mill, and it was a lot of fun. There were a couple ladies from Charlotte and someone local, and even the owner of the fiber mill, Julie, joined in and took the class, and we had a blast. The weather was beautiful. It got a little hot towards the end, but we just went inside for a little while and sat in the air conditioning while things were steaming. But they all seemed to go home with stuff that they really enjoyed. We mostly worked on silk, and I wanted to show you one that I did while I was there as an example. This one, I dyed first with avocado. So I brought a silk that had avocado as the background color, and then put on a few plants that we had around there. I love this. Isn't that gorgeous? And then eco printed that. So it has, I'm holding it close because if I put it back here, well, I guess you can see it. That super big one down here, I think, is chestnut. Let's see. Yep, there was avocado. We put on maple, marigold, tansy, goldenrod, sumac, and dogwood. Well, I don't remember which one that one is then. Let's see, where's the tansy? Here's the tansy right here. So I love the way it turned out. It's the first time I've done eco printing over avocado, and I love it. I'm definitely going to be doing some more of that. I also put some silks in, some indigo and some goldenrod. The goldenrod made it, beautiful golden yellow, and the indigo is blue. And I had some goldenrod that I put in the indigo also, and then made this really pretty green color. So I'll be eco printing on top of those. And I'm hoping to have a number of silks available for the release during the Not Everybody Gets to Go to Rhinebeck weekend. I'll have a really big release that weekend. I think I'm going to do it at 2 different times on Saturday and at 2 different times on Sunday. I'll add more to the shop, and that way from every time zone it should be easily accessible. When I was doing the silks in indigo, I also decided to dunk these socks in the indigo. This is the Saxon indigo, so it's bright blue. This is a pair that I knit from Felicity, who is a Romney sheep of Prado de Lana, and it's a fingering weight yarn. I think they're called butterfly socks. I can't remember. It's on my Ravelry page. I finished these a couple months ago, and it was a really beautiful white cream color, but I knew I wanted to put them in something, so I stuck them in the indigo. And I love the way they turned out, and I'm excited for the weather to get cool so I can wear them. It just feels, it's, the texture turned out really well with this yarn, and it feels sturdy. It doesn't feel like some sock yarns you knit and they're just kind of flop. They flop down your leg, or they're just too soft, and they don't have a lot of structure. This has a nice structure to it. I know that it's going to hold up well, and it's going to look good on my foot. So I'm excited to wear those. Let's see. You can't see it, but this table and the floor around me are just covered with things, but we've talked about most of it. So, the next thing is Sirius. I released my Sirius socks, and I'm so excited about them. I absolutely love the way they turned out. Here you go. I know you've seen them before, but I'm showing them to you again. I love them. I think they're beautiful. If you haven't seen them on Ravelry, you need to go look at them and look at the test knits. Some people did them in the same colors, and changed up things a little bit in here. Some people did them in totally different colors, and I absolutely love the examples. It's so fun to see how color work turns out when people switch the color just a little bit here and there. So here it is. It's the same design on the top as on the foot, and then you do it from the toe up. You make your gusset, and then you do a small amount of short rows here, German short row right here, and then you do a slip stitch heel flap, and then continue on. There was one tester who did the whole thing top down because she prefers top down. The charts are really simple, and it's the same either way. So if you know and you like top down, you can easily start it, do your favorite heel, and then finish it off using the charts. What else? Where there is orange right here, some of those rows carry 3 colors at once. And if you have done color work before, you know how to get your tension right with more than 2 colors, it's easy enough. A couple of testers did have a problem with that section, and they just chose to take the orange and put it here in the center where the gray is, which I think is a fabulous idea. And so I ended up taking the charts for this and making a second section of charts where it's only 2 colors. So you have the option of following either chart, the one that looks just like this, or the one where you would have your color, your bright color, through the center. And I might do that with my next pair. I am going to have a knit along. It's starting next Sunday, the 23rd, the first day of fall. And we're going to knit until the first day of winter. I was trying to remember all these deadlines and dates when we have things going on. The first day of winter, so December 21st. So we have a full season to knit a pair of these socks. And until the 23rd, there's a 15% code on my Instagram page, but I'll tell you, it's just Sirius, S-I-R-I-U-S, in all capital letters. You can get 15% off the pattern. And I've already decided, I didn't bring the yarn down. I have a madder dyed yarn that I made that was for sale with Fern Fiber a couple years ago from 2 sheep called Mama and Blackfoot, and they are, I think they're both Romney, but I'll have to check. But one was gray. So it's the madder over a gray, and it's this deep saturated, beautiful red. So the main body of the sock is going to be red, and then I think I'll use some cream and maybe some peach. I'm not sure what else in these colors, but I'm really excited to see those. So if you want to join in the knit along starting on the 23rd, I have all the information on my Ravelry page, and I'm happy to provide whatever support you might need to get these going. 2 of my testers had never done color work before, and one of them had never knit socks before. So it can definitely be done. So yay for Sirius. I have another pattern that I am dreaming of right now, and I just started swatching. It's going to be a cloak, and that's all I'm saying, because I really want to get it solidified before I start talking too much about it. But right now I'm working on a cable that is going to be a part of the cloak. And I just started swatching this. This is the Watershed yarn from Harrisville Designs. I have their Watershed and also their Highland yarn. They're very similar looking. This one is a little bit of a brighter red. The other one is a darker red. This one is a slightly looser plied. But I wanted it to I didn't want it to be too stiff. I wanted it to be somewhat of a flowy cloak. So I'll probably swatch in the other yarn too and see which one feels right, but right now I'm really liking this one. So what I did so far is this on the bottom is the cable design I think I'm going to use. But you can see this cable is surrounded by some pearls. And then this one I'm surrounding by knit stitches because I wanted to see how it would look without that transition to the purl stitch. And I think I like this, that it smoothly goes into the cable. So I'll finish this off and block it and see how it looks. See if I can get up closer to show you the depth of color in this. Yeah, isn't that gorgeous? It really is a deep brick red. That's a little more accurate back here, but there's blues and greens and browns and all kinds of tweedy colors through it. So it will definitely be red, a red cloak. And then there's going to be some color work and a cable, and I don't know what else. But I'm really excited about this. I have no idea when it's going to come out. Sooner, if Leaf decides he wants to go to school. I have to say, when we first started talking about the possibility of him going to school, and he was like, yeah, that might be fun, because he's always been, I don't want to, I want to be homeschooled. But, and some people think homeschoolers don't get any socialization. There's such a big community of homeschoolers in this area. You have to stop yourself from doing too much, because there's so many classes and so many groups and so many meetups, which is fabulous, but it's also exhausting, not just for the homeschool parents, but the kids. You know, we spend a lot of time in the car driving from one activity to another. And I feel like, you know, in the right school, he could thrive. So I'm not opposed to him being in a school atmosphere. But when we first started talking about it, it hit me hard. I was like, oh, what am I going to do? I mean, I know I would love to spend more time doing, you know, my fiber art stuff. But that has been my identity for the last, well, 15 years, homeschooling mom. So it'll be a big change, but again, we'll see. If he doesn't do it this year, I think I'm going to encourage him to do it next year, because I think it would be a good step for him. So anyway, but if he does decide to go this year and we find the right place, this may come out sooner rather than later. I would love for it to come out in the winter, but I've got a lot of work to do on it first before I can even get it into testing. So that is my next pattern idea. Let's see. Goodness, we're almost at an hour, so let me try and wrap things up. I have a few acquisitions I want to show you. The first comes from Dillfield, which I've mentioned already a couple of times in the podcast. Maria Shpakova, whose name I absolutely love saying because Shpakova is a lot of fun to say. I saw these on her Instagram feed. I don't remember when it was. A couple months ago, I feel like. She's been getting into pottery, and I fell in love with this one. And I said, you're not getting it. You're not getting it. You have enough. And then I saw them again. And then I stalked the page. And then I finally was like, finally, forget it. I'm buying it. So here's the inside, if you can see the color. Let's see. It's a really beautiful blue-green. It's not catching the light the right way. And then the outside, she's pressed plants into the pottery, and then I guess glazed over it and maybe wiped off what wasn't inside. And it also has a square bottom. So it's not turned on a wheel. It's handmade. And I really love it. And there's her little logo right there. It's a nice, sturdy, good, solid cup, and so beautiful. And when I was on her website, I also found this. I love having handmade pottery to eat and drink from, to have, well, anything in my life that's handmade, especially from people that I know, but things that are made with love and care and attention to detail. I like having those in my life. And this has eucalyptus. And it's, you know, I ego print with eucalyptus all the time. It had my name on it, so I had to get this too. So, and there's her little logo. I know she has a few more pieces still in her shop, so I'll link that down below so you can go take a look if you want. But she also sent along, and I never get tired of her soap because she does body care products. This is Red Granite Rouge, a purifying skin soap. Let me show you this. Each one always has a plant stamped and then embossed on it. and I just think they're beautiful, and it smells delicious. So that was one of my acquisitions. I also got, of course, the latest issue of Pom Pom. I mean, it's all about the moon, and I love the moon, so of course I wanted to get it. But I waited, actually. I waited till it was out. I waited to see some of the other things in there, because this, absolutely stunning, absolutely beautiful, but I don't think I would wear it. It's just like, maybe if it were just the top. I don't wear things that are busier, I guess you could say. A lot of, dots or speckles or whatever. It's so beautiful. And I would knit it in a heartbeat, but I would probably give it to someone to wear that I think would wear that. And I might, if I do it in the future, I might do it with just the yoke having the design. But then I think it takes away from, the beautiful continuation of the design towards the bottom. But then what I did see, and what I think sent me over the edge to buy the magazine, was this one. This is Artemis, and I love that. It is a simple sweater with a gorgeous golden crescent moon along the top. So I will probably be doing that one in the future. And I also saw, I like a lot of them, but there are a few that jumped out at me. See if I can find the other one. There's a shawl in here that has some beautiful moons. This one, Hecate. I really like that one too. And one other one that I thought Kaya might like. She has gotten into embroidery a bit. And so there's this super simple rectangle wrap, basically, but then it has stars and constellations and stuff embroidered onto it. And I asked her, if I knit that, would you embroider it? And she's like, yeah, that would be fun. So that's another idea that I might do. But it's got some really beautiful, beautiful patterns in here. There's gloves, there's sweaters. I think there's a hat. Yep, there's a hat. So another really great one by Pom Pom. If you haven't seen it, check with your local yarn shop. They may have it. You can flip through it and take a look at all the things that are inside. But there's also articles about women and the moon and, other really fun things. So I would recommend that one. Another thing that I got. It's been a month, okay? So you got to give me some leeway here, because it's been a month since I've talked to you guys. So I have a few things. Handy Woman by Kate Davies. This is one that I think I told you about after I came back from Edinburgh Yarn Festival. I'd seen her speak. It's getting bright. All right, I think that helps a little bit. So I went to see Kate Davies speak at Edinburgh Yarn Festival and really enjoyed the story of her history, her childhood, her stroke, and how she worked through it and everything. And so I've been looking forward to this book for a while. And it says, paralyzed by a stroke at the age of 36, Kate Davies' world turned upside down. Forced to change direction, Kate took a radical new creative path, and Handy Woman tells this story. Part of the reason why I think this speaks to me is that she and I are the same age. And somehow that makes it even more, it gives it even more oomph. Like, we're only a few months apart. And not only to see what she's overcome in her life, but what she's done in her life. Stroke or not, she has created an amazing business, a beautiful knitwear line. She's just an inspirational woman. So I've been excited to read this. I've just read the first chapter so far. I've just started getting into it, but I have no doubt that I'll be recommending it to you even more when I'm finished. So that's one that you can definitely take a look into. And the last thing that I got, oh no, not the last thing, I have two things. I was talking with Katie, who works at Blacker Yarn. She also has the Green Bean podcast, and it's an amazing podcast. She's absolutely amazing artist. You should take a look at it. And I was asking her about a specific yarn that I wanted to use for a sweater, and they didn't have enough of it. And it was an Aran weight, heavy worsted Aran weight yarn. And she said, no, but we are coming out with our brand new birthday yarn, which Blacker Yarns produces a birthday yarn every year. And it happened to be an Aran weight yarn. And she showed me some of the colors, and I was like, I want that yarn that's perfect for the sweater. So before it came out, she sent me a couple of samples, and here they are. Really beautiful. The main color is a gray, the undyed, as you can see it here. So there's a lot of depth to the colors that they have dyed. Dyeing over a gray always gives it a little more depth. It's called Tour, and it is made from Romney, Merino, Ronaldsay, Shetland, and alpaca. So it's got a nice drape to it. It's got a nice structure to it. Looks like a 2-ply. A little tooth, but not too much, so it would be really nice for color work. Actually, Katie also made 5 or 6 patterns of her own design. Crochet, knit, hats, sweater, socks, to release at the same time as these were released. They were just released last week. So you really should check it out because they're beautiful designs, and the color work in the socks and the sweater, absolutely stunning. So I am hoping to make a colorwork sweater out of these, and I'm really excited about it. Their birthday yarns only are around. They're limited because they just put them out for the birthday, and then they don't make them anymore. So if it's something you're interested in, I will go to their site and check them out. They're really beautiful. And here's the color card again. There's a light gray, a dark gray, kind of a dark tealy blue, green, and then 2 shades of pink. So that is Tour by Blacker Yarns. And now the last thing before the tea recipe is this. The Slate Home Folk Art Calendar. I just saw this last week on Treehouse Knits podcast and fell head over heels. I was thinking, well, in my new studio, I'm going to need a calendar. She has the loveliest illustrations, and many of them are sheepy related. It says, yesterday is gone, tomorrow has not yet come. We have only today, let us begin. Mother Teresa. She's holding a little sheep. And I'll show you some of the ones that are. So the Winter Weaver is January. And then we've got the Shepherdess, which is the one that I showed you at the beginning. And there's Undoer of Knots. They're not all sheep related. Like this one's called Born at Home for June. In the Dye Garden. So dyeing, sorry, I keep licking my finger. Dyeing, spinning, sheepy related, the Spinner. But look at the lovely detail. They're just calming. I think it would be a pretty calendar to look at. And then there are lots and lots of holidays listed. I think they're all Christian holidays. I'm not Christian, so I'm not sure. There's a lot of Saint this and Saint that, and then Orthodox holidays, so Catholic holidays maybe. Saint Margaret of Scotland, Saint Elizabeth of Hungary. So it seems like there's a wide variety of Catholic and Christian holidays, but like I didn't notice any Jewish holidays or any others. But there's Thanksgiving and some of the standard ones. Boxing Day. Oh no, it does say Hanukkah. So yeah, so there's but I mean, look at all the things that are mentioned. Like that's a very full mention of different holidays and things that are going on, which I just think is kind of fun. Even though I'm not religious, it's fun to know when there are celebrations going on in other people's religions. So, and what they're, giving thanks for at the time or celebrating at the time. So, the Slate Home Folk Arts Calendar, and she's on Etsy, and I'll put her store down below. Heather is her name, and it's Slate Home Folk on Instagram and slatehomefolk.com. So I just wanted to show you that because of all the sheepy related things. Last but not least, we have our tea. This is the apple cider donut tea recipe for those people who are or aren't going to Rhinebeck, whoever wants to make it. But I specifically made it because people at Rhinebeck always talk about the apple cider donuts that they get and how awesome and delicious they are, and I thought, wouldn't it be fun to have an apple cider donut tea? So I made this recipe up so that you can get the ingredients and have it for you through the whole fall and winter and enjoy your own recipe. So here it is, and I will have it in the show notes also at ninjachickens.org. For the not going to Rhinebeck tea recipe, the apple cider donut tea, you will need 30 grams of either black tea, green tea, or rooibos. You can make it whatever way you want. It doesn't matter if you make it with or without caffeine. The flavor won't change tremendously. Then 15 grams of dried apple pieces, 15 grams of cinnamon chips or bark, 10 grams of elderberries, 10 grams of hibiscus, 6 grams of nutmeg, freshly ground if you can. You can get the actual full nutmegs and grate them. And 6 grams of vanilla seeds or chopped up vanilla pod. So you'll put all of those together, mix it up, and store it in an airtight container. Use 2 teaspoons in a heavy cup of boiling water, a mug of boiling water, and steep it for 6 to 8 minutes. And then strain out the herbs. Add cream and sweetener to taste. And you can add coconut milk or almond milk or soy milk or just whole whipping cream, whatever your favorite cream is. And that's it. And it really is apple cider donut-y. The hibiscus, because it's a little bit tart, gives it that tart apple cider flavor. The apple pieces and the cinnamon help with help give that the apple flavor. They all help with it, but I guess there's some things that I put in there to try and tweak it a little bit to make it more like apple cider donuts and not just an apple tea. So I hope you enjoy it. I think it's really tasty and it's a lot of fun to drink during the winter. During the cold weather. And I think that's it. Whew, that's the longest one I've done in a while. A little bit over an hour. Hopefully, once I've edited some, it won't be much more than an hour, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have an amazing next couple of weeks. I hope to see you on the Ravelry group, joining in on the knit along for not going to Rhinebeck, as well as the socks, and joining in on the giveaway and all that fun stuff. Have a fabulous couple of weeks, and I will chat with you soon. Bye. If that mockingbird won't sing